I was putting myself through school doing magic at the time, and my
whoa.
Yeah,
can't just skim over that. What do you mean?
Yeah, I thought you knew about that.
No.
So that was how I put myself through school, was doing magic.
From the studio of Rule 29, I'm your host, Justin Ahrens, and this is Design Of, a podcast about people and the path they've taken from the past to the present. Today, I'm happy to share my interview with my good friend, Bill Gardner, designer, author, speaker, logo connoisseur, and to my surprise, a magician. Join us as we start our interview at a conference we both had the chance to speak at together. You know, I did have some good conversation. Yeah. I mean, as you know, you've done this long enough to know, too, that few minutes after a talk is really, in my opinion, some of the most precious time, you know? Because people are going to take a few minutes to say thank you or to ask you a question.
That's where you're going to make the contact in there.
Well, and it's really, those are the people that really have some stuff to ask you. But enough about me, William.
No. We're actually recording?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got you. I want to respect your time.
So what is your podcast? Tell me about it.
Well, this is a twist. You're going to interview me. Usually we crack a joke and say, have you ever heard of my podcast? But I didn't know in advance you already haven't. Yeah? So our podcast is called Design Of.
Yes.
And we started doing it because we wanted to explore the story that is around us.
Right.
So often when you intersect with someone, especially at our more seasoned age, they've gotten to us.
I'm more seasoned than you are.
That's perhaps true.
A lot
but
more.
I want to respect my guests.
Okay. Yeah.
But like we're going to dig in with you a little bit.
Yep.
There was a process. There was things that happened. There was a story behind where you are now.
Yeah.
Right? And so I'm really fascinated in exploring that.
Okay.
And that's really what this is about. And so the question really is, Bill, are you going to trust me to warmly and securely bring you into this podcast fold and allow me to tell your story?
Yeah. Why don't, I say that, but later we'll see if I respect you in the morning.
Perfect.
Okay.
It's starting out how I imagined it already.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So for those of my listeners who don't know who you are, how would you describe Bill Gardner or what you do?
Let's divide my life into at least three segments, which is my personal life and two aspects of office life. And office life is Gardner Design, which has been around since 1985. No, I take that back, 1983. And also divided into Logo Lounge, which has been around since 2001. And one is a branding firm, the other one is a resource for designers, and the other one is a very sacrosanct union between my wife that produced a daughter who's 22 years old that's just wrapping up this month her degree as an architect from Kansas State University.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah.
How great is that?
Yeah.
So
it's
she's
very cool.
She's in the creative space too.
She is, and what's really quinky dinkle is that my wife also graduated from Kansas State with the same architecture degree, which is a focus on interior design and product design.
Wow.
So, interior architecture, product design, and I guess I'm the odd man out because I just draw pictures.
Yeah. Well, there's no shame in that.
No?
Yeah.
Oh.
So you are in Kansas.
Yeah.
And in Wichita.
Yep.
Okay.
Which is city of about 500,000 if you include all the surrounding communities on the outsides of it. It's the largest single community in the state of Kansas, which is a wheat-producing state and home of the Wichita State Shockers, my alma mater. And
you are a shocker?
I am a shocker, which is the whole story. We developed the identity for WSU. Yeah, well.
Did you really?
Yeah, well, we didn't develop the shocker,
right,
but we developed the WSU logo. Much like, we were talking about your alma mater asking you to come back, except ours, they actually kind of carried through, and we actually developed it. One of the things about Wichita State, and this is something that probably a lot of people haven't heard of designers from Wichita State, but honestly, there are some amazing designers that have come out of there. Wichita is just this really fervent design community that has this passion for really exceptional design. And even though I will say Wichita State doesn't crank out massive numbers of exceptional designers, the ones that they crank out that are good are exceptional. So,
That's wonderful.
yeah, it really is.
What is so fascinating about Bill's story is how Kansas and branding are literally a part of who he is.
My father was literally mayor of Wichita when I was born in 1957.
So to say you're a Kansan is an understatement.
Yeah, it's that. My dad had just returned from World War II, European theater, came back, was a home builder along with his father. They were both entrepreneurial and...
So your grandfather owned his own construction business?
He was, and he was also a failed cattleman and a failed oilman. But the cool part that drug out of that was when he was a cattleman, and literally this goes back to the early 1900s, he branded cattle for the Gardner ranch, and their brand was called the Diamond Bar, which was a diamond shape with a little bar underneath it. And he loved that thing, and it was one that he had drawn up. This little diamond in a bar, and when he went into real estate years later, he would build these little diamonds with bars tacked underneath them onto all the houses. Like you'd see a trellis in front of the house, and here'd be this diamond pattern with a little bar underneath it, or here would be, a front door that had a diamond window with a little bar window underneath it. And he built the diamond bar, this brand, into these houses. And when my dad came along and kind of took over the business, he streamlined it a little bit and had manufactured these steel diamond bars that said a Gardner home, and it said Diamond Bar brand underneath it. So I literally have grown up with this idea of branding, in the family, going back to branding cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when we get into Logo Lounge, that'll even be more interesting. So okay, so you came from a family of entrepreneurs.
Yep.
But, and you went to Wichita State.
Went to Wichita State. Now I'm a shocker. Somebody's going to have to look up shocker that's listening to this so that they know that there's an alternate meaning to shockers, and it's a long story.
Just a quick show note, folks. You really don't need to look it up.
So shocker literally comes from the idea that we are in wheat country, and before there were combines, when wheat came to maturity, you would go out in the field with a sickle and you would cut the wheat and you would make a shock of wheat, which is that symbol that you see where wheat's stacked up out in the field, or some crop is, corn or whatever, where it kind of comes up to like a teepee point and then out.
Yeah, it's kind of tied in the middle or something. Okay.
And, and it would sit there until somebody came by to thresh it, and they would pick those up, they would shake it out, and that would be how you'd release the wheat from the stalk. And that was called shocking wheat. And during the summertime, the people that went to Wichita State University would go out in the fields to earn money, and they would shock wheat. So they were wheat shockers. And so people always look at shocker and they assume that it's, electrical or something like that. But if you look at the mascot, which is called the Woo Shock, it is this overwrought version of wheat with eyes and a bad smile and a little chunk of wheat hanging out of his mouth and no legs anymore. They've got rid of his legs, and he's called a wheat shocker or a Woo Shock, and that's the mascot, which is actually ranked as one of the best mascots in the United States. It won some competition last year. Or something like that.
We looked it up during March Madness.
Did you really?
Yeah. Because a lot of my team, when we do March Madness, we just pretty much vote on
pick it based on the mascot.
Yeah.
And wheat loses to everything in a mascot race.
And people started laughing about shocker because it's alternative meaning, and but it's really fascinating.
And so when we developed the athletic / academic logo for Wichita State, it has a W and an S and a U, and it has this stalk of wheat going over the top of it. And it really is important to help identify it. It helps you get the idea of branding because, there's Washington State and Weber State and Wayne State and all kinds of other WSUs.
Yeah.
But the wheat helps a person identify, okay, we're probably talking somewhere in the center of the United States, somewhere in the, and it helps you understand Wichita State and the foundation behind it. And it's, it's a good logo story. It kind of works out.
I agree. And it seems like you're proud of it too, so that's even more cool.
We are, and it's done really well. And it also is about the time that Greg Marshall came to Wichita State and started really whipping the basketball team into shape. So we believe that we led to that success.
Of course you did. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so again, so your grandpa, your dad are entrepreneurs, and then you decide to hang your shingle. Why?
Okay, so the part of the story that we're really missing here is that I have a business degree, which is what I went before I went for a design degree. And it was because I was intending to go into the family business, which by that point was real estate appraisal. And I just couldn't find myself bringing myself to telling people what their houses were worth for the rest of my life.
It does not seem like you at all.
Yeah. $526,000. I say that thing's worth $527. I'll give you $528. I mean, it's just not one of those things that I could bring myself to. And I was putting myself through school doing magic at the time, and my
Whoa.
Yeah, I didn't.
You can't just skim over that. What do you mean?
Yeah, I thought you knew about that.
No.
So that was how I put myself through school, was doing magic, and we traveled around the world, around the country, putting on magic conventions with a gentleman that's kind of the godfather of magic, a guy named Joe Stevens. And we annually would go out to Las Vegas and do a magic seminar with Siegfried and Roy and David Copperfield and Lance Burton and Harry Anderson and this whole cast of, great magicians. And it allowed me to be able to feel comfortable, talking to people and be on stage. And so that was literally how I put myself through school during that period of time, was doing magic. And then we ended up taking the opportunity to go up to Kansas State, which was where I decided to pursue a little bit of design program. And found my wife up there and figured out that they didn't have much of a design program. Came back to Wichita State and finished up the design degree there. Then we started the business.
Okay, so before we go there, I just want to ask a question. Have you ever heard of the magician Nate Staniforth?
I don't know. Is it your wife's father?
No.
No, couldn't tell you that.
But Nate's a friend of mine, and if you ever see any of our stuff, we talk about him. But he's a magician out of Iowa.
Okay.
And I would be surprised if you hadn't seen him perform, or
could be.
Yeah,
there's a lot of magicians.
He had a show on Discovery and all this sort of thing, and there are.
How cool is that?
He just wrote a book about magic.
Okay.
And if you allow me, I want to send it to you.
That would. Oh, you are so kind.
Because it is a beautifully crafted story.
Yeah.
And he is just a brilliant magician. And how we connected is one of the reasons we do this podcast, is in learning how to tell story, but also exploring moments of wonder. And that's his whole base of magic.
When I was running around in magic, I was a young ingenue and the bad boy. But no, I'd love to hear more about Nate. That would be cool.
Yeah, no, I'll send it to you. In fact, we interviewed him, so since you've never listened to our podcast, that will probably be your first episode,
That would be a blast.
I'm sure.
I would enjoy that. Thank you.
Check out episode 14, where we interview Nate Staniforth, and we talk about his pursuit of wonder through magic and talk about his new book, Here is Real Magic. It's a good one.
So you graduate, business degree, design degree. You decide.
So doesn't that make sense?
It does, yeah. But I think what's interesting to me is you had no prior apprenticeship or experience.
Never worked for anybody else.
Just kind of went on your own.
Yeah. Well, and it wasn't that I intended to do that. I remember looking at firms like, there was a firm out in Colorado called Monagle & Associates that did a lot of branding and corporate identity for banks and schools, higher institutions, and the likes. And I started looking around at different marketing and advertising firms, but I found that as I would do interviews, that everybody would get to the end of looking at my portfolio and they would say, "Yeah, that's a great book. Do a trick for me." And it was one of those deals where,
Seriously?
because they knew that I did magic, and I decided at that point, man, I got to put the magic away, and I've got to focus just purely on design if that's what it's going to be about. And I couldn't tell you I couldn't be happier with the fact that I made that decision. And it's only been in the last maybe decade that I've kind of pulled the magic out and allowed people to kind of find out about that aspect of my life, because I figure I'm a little bit beyond it now. So.
But you enjoyed it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, what a tremendous, I will tell you that it led me, in the travels, let's go back, maybe it was about 1983, going out to Los Angeles in preparation for one of our conventions in Las Vegas. And we were at the Academy of Magical Arts Awards, where I met Pele, who was a soccer player, Cary Grant, Betty White, this whole cast of people that were kind of involved with magic from, a celebrity side. But the biggest part about that trip was that I had written a letter to a guy named Saul Bass said, "Hey, I'm heading out your way. And actually, my letter started out like this. It said, "Dear Mr. Bass, I'm heading out to Los Angeles on this date in March, and I'd love to come by your office, but of course you're probably going to be busy, and I understand, because your time's precious." And this is all before internet, so it's literally a typed letter. And you probably, maybe I could, visit with somebody else there if you're not available, and for that matter, they're probably going to be busy too. So maybe I'll just drive by the place and wave. By the time I'd gotten to the end of the letter, I had talked myself out of visiting with him. And I was officing in my father's office at the time, and his administrator said, "Give me that." And she types out this letter, says, "Dear Mr. Bass, I'm going to be in town on March 16th, and I'd like to come by your office to visit with you. I'll give you a call on such and such date to confirm this." And popped it in the mail, and their office calls up, and I set up an appointment with him, and went out to visit Saul Bass. And I'm going to share a story with you that I've not shared.
I'm totally riveted right now.
What I love about doing this show and moments like this is that Saul Bass is one of my design heroes. I love his work, his style, his philosophy. In fact, hear it simply put from the master himself.
The fact of the matter is, I want everything we do, that I do personally, that our office does, to be beautiful. I don't give a damn whether the client understands that that's worth anything, or whether the client thinks it's worth anything, or whether it is worth anything. It's worth it to me. It's the way I want to live my life. I want to make beautiful things, even if nobody cares, as against ugly things. Now, sometimes you can't make everything beautiful because that's my intent.
And I know everything that there is, and this was common, when we would travel, if it was to Hawaii or wherever it was, that I would find the most preeminent, graphic designer there, and I'd go visit with him.
It's brilliant.
It was early, and so I'm in Saul Bass's office, which is on Sunset Strip, big rainbow painted out over his office, very graphic. And I had read everything there was to read about Saul Bass. There was nothing that you could tell me about Saul Bass that would surprise me. And I'm sitting there in the reception area, and I'm waiting, and I'm looking down on the floor, and there's a register, a grate on the floor that is exactly like a grate that had been in the house that I grew up in. And I'm sitting there kind of staring at it and thinking, isn't that a coincidence? Saul Bass's office is great, just like mine. And I'm thinking about, what I'm going to say to Saul Bass when he comes. And Saul Bass starts walking down this long hallway, which is kind of meant to intimidate clients, I suspect, and it's this very long hallway that he's walking towards you at.
Could you hear his feet?
Well, here's what you don't know and I didn't know about Saul Bass. Saul Bass had been in a major auto accident in the 50s, and he had one leg that was shorter than the other, significantly. So he walked with a limp, a pretty significant limp, and he's walking down this hallway at me with this really significant limp. And I'm going, and I realized that was something I didn't know about Saul Bass. I knew everything there was to know about Saul Bass, except for the fact that he had this limp. And, it caught me so off guard that he came up and he goes, "Mr. Gardner?" And I'm going, "Yes, Mr. Bass. You know what? I've got a register in our house in Kansas just like the one in your floor." I'm going, oh my God, I just blew my opening with Saul Bass. I'm sitting here with a god, and I'm talking about the register in my floor. Anyway,
what did he say?
He was very kind. He literally spent about an hour with me, and the thing I drew out of that was that I literally, at that point in my life, was trying to figure out, what are the secrets to great identity design? And I knew that he was a god or a demigod at least. And I can remember him in his kind of gruff and low voice saying, "There aren't any secrets, Your secret is just to work hard at it. It's just working hard." But I do remember him sitting there across the desk, and he was drawing out this logo, which ultimately came into play. And he was sitting there sketching on it as I was talking to him, and it was so cool that actually came out to play. But anyway.
That's so cool. I'm glad we took that trip.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. Because I'm a massive fan of his. And
oh, absolutely. He's, matter of fact, in the trend report that we talk about tomorrow, I'll refer to him and some of the things that are coming back nostalgia-wise that relate to some of his design.
So let me jump ahead. So
yeah, go ahead.
Magic is, kind of going to the wayside. Gardner Design is doing well at some level. It's being
and unfortunately, it was actually called Gardner's Graphic Hands.
come on.
Yeah. Yeah. So
What was the
back to
logo?
magic. There was
Explain the logo.
yeah, I can. Okay. There was a firm out of Germany at the time. It may still be around, called Magic Hands, and I decided that I was going to design a logo in school. For every designer in school designs a logo for themselves.
Yeah, of course.
And it was this triangle shape that formed a hand holding a technical pin that kind of came down like this in it. And underneath it said Gardner's graphic hands. And it couldn't just be Gardner's hands, like magic hands. It had to be graphic, which was, knowing that we now do as much branding and nomenclature work as we do. I seldom admit to people that the firm was known for about 5 or 6 years as Gardner's graphic hands before I turned it to Gardner Design. So there you go.
That's good. See, I love these little secrets.
All these little things that we don't hear about.
So, were you predominantly trying to do identity work?
Yeah,
brand work?
and that was the challenge. Was I'd go in for an interview, and I told people that my passion, my love is identity design and logo design, and you've got to generate and you've got to create that kind of business. And an advertising agency isn't the place. I mean, they have a stable of maybe 10 client stops, and most of them have their brands established, and you're really working on marketing material. And if a project like that does come along, it's raw meat. And of course, the peak designers are the ones that are going to get a chance to work on it, not the lowly grunts. So it literally was going out and meeting with people and introducing myself and making some connections from people I knew, and started. And I think some of the very first identities that I did, I unwittingly had received a email from the Art Directors Club of New York, and I think Print Magazine at the time for their annual. And back then, if you spent $25 submitting something to a design competition, that was a huge, you're taking a stab in the dark.
Yeah.
It's an investment. Yeah. And I'm getting ready to get married, and it's one of those things where, do I really want to spend $25 on this, or 20, and it's $25 per entry. And I think I ended up spending maybe $150 on New York Art Directors Club, and $35 on Print Magazine, because it was so cheap. And the very same day, a couple months later, I get letters back from New York Art Directors Club that I had gotten 3 pieces in. And
that's awesome.
And I'm this wet behind the ear student straight out of school, and the next day a letter comes from Print telling me I'd gotten 5 or 6 pieces in, and I'm going, holy cow, God, can you I must be something, and there is nothing like, I know that this feeling. It's when you get that first thing in print, and somebody says, Justin, your work is not only good, but we want to put it in our publication. And you've got goosebumps just running from one knuckle to the other, or up and around your neck. It's just,
It's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
But also, let me ask this question, because
Yep.
I think this is true too. So I thought, if I ever get into communication arts, that's it, man.
Yeah.
If I get in comm arts, I must be just crushing it. You know what's crazy is, I have been in communication arts.
Yeah.
And it was awesome, and I love that feeling.
Oh, you got to.
But it doesn't deliver on what I thought it meant.
Yeah.
In the sense of,
Yep.
we tend to look at things and say, if I just get into comm arts or graphics,
Everybody's going to know who I am. They're going to call me. My phone won't quit ringing.
Yeah, I'll just put my feet up and I'll just start, which is such a naive, ignorant thing to think.
Yeah. But, but I think it's important that we think that. And here's why. It's a situation where it's the ring that you're grabbing for. It's that prize out there. And if that prize wasn't taunting you, and just out of reach, I'm not sure we would push ourselves to make it into some of the competitions that we do. So it's not as much about the payoff that you get from clients contacting you as it is that it causes you to push and exude the most effort into your work to be able to achieve that level. And no, I totally get that. Matter of fact, so that I just returned from Creative South here a couple of weeks ago, and I had one of the most gratifying experiences. Actually, I had 3 of the most gratifying experiences down there.
Bill is about to share 3 stories about the impact Logo Lounge has had on himself and also the community. Logo Lounge is a collection of over 300,000 logos online and published in a collection of best-selling books of curated logos from around the world. Bill, through Logo Lounge, has made himself one of the top resources on global logo trends and speaks internationally for LinkedIn Learning and is a go-to source for all things logo.
One is from a young designer who's 20 years old named Mark Hirons, who's out of London, just outside of London. From another designer named Brian Steely, who you may or may not know, hell, a designer. And from another one named Jeremy Slagle, who you may or may not know. All exceptional designers, especially, Mark's young, but the other 2. And Jeremy came up to me at this conference. He says, "I've got to credit you." I say, I'm so honored to meet you, and I've got to tell you that I was dating my wife, and we were in a mall, and there was a Barnes & Noble, and we walked in, and I pulled the Logo Lounge book off the shelf, and I had 2 logos on the cover. Cinched the deal. And I'm going, yeah, man. And I'm at another event that same night, and Brian Steely, who, if you're not familiar with him, you need to look him up, just beautiful monoline, beautiful work, came up to me at this party and says, "You're Bill Gardner." I says, "I've got to tell you," he said, "you hunted me down and included my work in this last book," and he said, "It has changed my career. Being in that book and the interview you did, it has literally led to, I can't tell you how many clients." And the last one is Mark Hirons, who I knew this story in advance, but I didn't know he was going to be at the conference. He flew over from the UK to be at this conference in Columbus, Georgia, and he had posted an unpackaging. Are you familiar with those?
Yeah.
Quasi new to me, but somebody pointed this one out to me, and it was his unpackaging Logo Lounge tin over in England, and he got a logo into it. And you could just see this rash coming across his face as he's unpackaging this thing, and he pulls out the book and he's going, I've got a logo in here. And he does this podcast on YouTube. Blue Deer Design, I think, is from. You'll have to look this up. But he, this look on his face as he's cracking that book open, and he sees his logo. You can just see the blood drains from his face in such a way you can tell. It's just like you felt the very first time that you got that thing in there. And, that is what means so much to me about Logo Lounge and what it's achieved is in that weekend having 3 payoffs, these people that have shared with me how it kind of changed their life. And
that's awesome. Yeah. That's got to make you feel incredible.
Oh, you know this. You've got great designers working for you, Justin. And when you go into a meeting and you're carrying their work and the client loves it, everything in the world tells you that you should have some streak of jealousy or something running through you, but you don't. You've got this incredible feeling of pride.
So proud.
I
love that.
You're kind of going, God, my people. This is my team that, but it were for me that I had the talent to produce the kind of work that they did. And, we just take such incredible pride in that. And I know that my team, Adam Anderson and Nathan Holtus and Jay Walters and Brian Weens, and I mean, they're all so incredibly talented. And I always feel incredible walking into a meeting with their work because I know that, I wish that I had the level of talent that they did.
That's well said. I think, going back to your point about entering into awards and that sort of thing, I honestly believe it's a wonderful barometer. It's a wonderful sort of, like you had said, kind of chase the ring. Now we don't do our work to get into award shows, but there's something about when we do something at a certain level and we're like, oh,
exactly,
this is awesome. We want to share this. And then when you get that letter or that email these days, it's equally devastating when you get denied, right? But when you get the yes, you're just like,
oh, and God knows I've gotten enough denial letters. I think we all do. And anybody that wouldn't,
but no. So let's get to Logo Lounge.
Okay.
So why did you start Logo Lounge? What was the impetus behind that?
A friend of mine and I were having a conversation when he had a failed marriage just about the time I was getting married. and he was trying to figure out how to get back into the dating scene, and the internet was just burgeoning. It was just starting, and I made the comment, why don't you get involved in this internet thing? And I mean, it is kind of, no, not dating, just as a point of commonality. He was a relatively introverted. We were talking about introverts and extroverts earlier today. Yeah. He was a relatively introverted individual. That came across as an extrovert, but very introverted, and just trying to find something that he could have in common with somebody to have a conversation. And he goes, God, I don't know anything about it. He says, what would you do? And I'm going, well, like, I'm into logos. I don't know. Maybe I'd come up with a site that was, I could take all my logo books, or all these logos, and I could put them on this site, and you could look them up, and kind of like eBay. And it dawned on me at that point, and it was eBay that kind of got me there, because eBay had just been introduced, and if you think about it, somebody that was in Turkey could take a teapot that they wanted to sell somewhere in the world, and they could post it on eBay along with some words about, that described it, and I could type in teapot and pull up a teapot in the U.S., seconds later. And I started thinking this through, and I'm kind of going, oh, hell, all the time that we spend going through books and taking a look at, catalogs of logos, you could literally, take those keywords, have somebody enter those keywords when they submit a logo, and just like eBay. And I will tell you that it probably spent about 3 years in the mental incubator before we were actually able, before technology got to the point where I could really make it happen. And when we launched the thing, I will tell you that here, 20 years later, this has been one of those things that it met all of my original expectations. It exceeded my original expectations, and that there really was very little about it that surprised me, because I'd had that many years to think about, what it might be and how it might work.
Did you ever get nervous if someone beat you to it?
No, not really. I guess maybe I should have. Maybe I was stupid there. I will tell you that as soon as it started up, that's when I started getting nervous. Was you started thinking, God, if somebody else has the same idea, I want to make sure that I get to a level of critical mass, in here before somebody else, catches up with me. And so, like, Logo Lounge has better than 250,000 logos that have been uploaded by our members to the site. And there are, God, if you went to Google and you popped in, something in logo, you're going to get millions, but they're not curated. Yeah. They're not, so that's the thing about Logo Lounge is, highly curated. You can determine the level if you're looking for stuff that made it into books, or things that were approved by judges, or just in people's light boxes, or is it by keyword of the industry, or who the designer is, or where in the world they're from, or when it was produced. And it is such an amazing tool for the research. I mean, we've been talking about people getting things into the books, but as a research tool, that's where it really has, helped this industry.
Well, I'll tell you now that I have the opportunity to be right in front of you, thank you for Logo Lounge, because it is one of the tools that we use. Sometimes, like, we'll get stuck on a letter.
Yeah.
And I love that when people will tag their logos with a specific letter.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I never would have thought to do that stroke that way on, a Q or whatever.
And that's exactly
it's inspirational because although what we'll end up doing looks nothing like what we looked at, it pushes you. And that was the way, like you said earlier, and those listeners who don't know what we're talking about here, there used to be books and books and books of, like, iconography that you would look at, and you
still are.
And you look at one little piece and say, okay, how am I going to do a left hand in this logo? Right? And you look at all the different, images of humanoids, right, and figure out how to do the left hand. And what I love is, you could Google. It's true. We can do that, and we do that sometimes too. Sure. But when you go into the level of quality of the work that's on Logo Lounge is the game changer, I think.
Yeah. And, we set that bar. It's $100 annual membership, and I get that. And you could go to Google for free. You could go to Dribbble for free, But the thing is there is a lot of effort that goes into the site, and it costs us. And, it's one of those deals where, one of the dirty little secrets behind Logo Lounge is I decided early on that it was going to be what was going to help my daughter make it through college, and here she is graduating this year, so I've got to figure out what to do with the money now. That's because we're just rolling in the money. I'm kidding you. That's not the case.
You're absolutely kidding.
but
so I'm sure that's the perception people have was like, I got to pay $100. This guy's probably driving.
Yeah,
flying to work.
Yeah, and we occasionally get something, and it rolls off my back from somebody going, I can't believe that you're charging people to upload content and to look at the content and the likes. I'm going, guys, it's a business. It costs money to do this, and it's not. The weather doesn't just come from heaven. It's not for free. You got to figure out how to do this. Some people live a really charmed life, and I'm one of those individuals. I couldn't have been luckier in the things that have happened to me in my lifetime, and I'm highly appreciative of it.
That's awesome. Well, Bill, I appreciate your spirit, and I'm honored that we're friends.
I'm honored that we are friends.
Yeah, and thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Hey, this podcast?
Yeah. I'm
hoping this thing works incredibly well, because you're one of those individuals that deserves it.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you to my good friend and logo chieftain, Bill Gardner. Bill, I always laugh, learn, and walk away a better person after talking to you. Thanks, my man. For more on Bill, search for him on LinkedIn Learning. And for logo inspiration, you must check out Logo Lounge at logolounge.com. I would also like to thank Sleeping at Last for being the soundtrack to our show. For more on Ryan and Sleeping at Last, please go to sleepingatlast.com or search for Sleeping at Last wherever you get your music from. To Design Of's audio engineer Steve Wick, I know he loved this episode just so he could bust out his old Kansas vinyl. To the co-founder of this show, Wills Francis, many people don't know this, but he ended almost every question with,
later we'll see if I respect you in the morning.
I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did making it. If so, please give us a ranking on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast from. Please tell others about our show and stay tuned for the next season. Please follow us on Twitter at Design of Podcast and check out our site at rule29.com/Design of Podcast. See you guys next episode.